Hello, this is Stacy Johnson, owner and operator of SF Johnson Consulting and Construction Services. And in this video discussion, we will be going over the RFIs, or the request for information, the best practices for contractors, and what you should be looking for and how to organize them and navigate through them. So, what is a request for information? Well, by definition, the request for information, this refers to a solicitation for of details or additional information about an aspect of the project. Usually it's sent by one party when they need critical information to proceed or to make a decision. And the goals of the request for information, um, actually, what are the common reasons why we send the request for information? Sometimes when we're missing or have incomplete information, of course, and just from personal experience, most of the times the plans are not to detail or they have many mistakes. And anytime that you recognize that there is a mistake, definitely send through a request for information. So if there's any missing information or if any of the information appears incorrect, I would request, additional information. Um, Common reasons also, the plans or the details may be changed because of a design flaw. And again, this one that you probably would find yourself. They could be changed for material availability or for cost or for some other reason. So there's a variety of reasons for the request for information. Also, updates may be made to the plans based on new or previously unavailable information, and change requested by owners, designers, or contractors. So those are some of the common reasons for requests for information. But from the day-to-day process, it's because something is not clear on the plans. And I also always recommend that if something in the smallest, slightest event seems unclear, request more information. Next, some of the goals for the request for information. Well, the goal for the request is to, or the ideal of it is to formalize the request for information for changes to the plans. So the request actually, again, formalizes the information so we can change the plans. Documents concerned about the materials or cost estimates. So that's what the goal of the request for information. It documents concerns about materials or cost estimates. It shares information and highlights changes to all key players in the project. And all of this helps the project progress smoothly and limits legal and financial liability for groups that stick to the process using formal requests for information. So it's always, everything definitely needs to be in writing. So that is really the goal. Again, to formalize the request for the information so all the parties receive it. It documents the concerns and it helps to move the project along. And if there are any changes as a result of the request for information, that has to be documented as well. So let's go over some general best practices for the request for information. So anytime you're seeking information, always ask for one thing at a time. So don't make it a multiple request unless they say it's okay to, then that's fine. Use a specialized form or a standardized form, and note the time frame in the contract, and that's important. Every contract should have a time frame as to when or how long it will take to get the answers back for the request for information. So make sure you review the contract. Store all requests for information in a centralized database so you'll have them available. Keep a record of delivery of all requests for information. And note the construction schedule or budget may be changed based on the response from the request for information. So again, note that the construction schedule or budget may be changed as a response to the request for information. And create a permanent request for information audit trail so you'll know the days you receive them, the day that you receive back the information, and it keeps everything clear. read all contract documents because the contract will give you all the guidelines for the handling of all requests for information. And in some cases, you have to consider the cost for the RFIs to all parties involved. Each may cost up to $1,000 to administer. So they try to keep those questions to or those requests to a minimum. But if you do, if it's needed for clarification, you do need to request. Next, how to write a request for information. The best practices for that. And without the guidelines for creating and submitting a new request for information, contractors may be confused on exactly how to create an effective one. So use clean and simple formatting, follow a consistent format, and naming convention, the way you're going to name things. Make sure all abbreviations are used by the same parties, meaning the same thing. Ask one question or request very specific information. Provide complete and accurate context of the situation or question, and provide any documentation, images, video whenever necessary. Okay, so what happens after the request for information is answered? Typically, if the response answers the question that was answered, then there's a record and there may be a change. So in most cases, it's a delay in the response, and the delay in the response typically is about 25% of the requests for information don't get a response. So always make sure you keep up with that and apply or comply with the timelines for the request for information. Tips with dealing with RFIs. Thoroughly read the contract, and the contract will have accurate guidelines on how you deal with them in terms of how much time it's going to take to get a response back and how to properly submit them. Address any request for information as early as possible. Depending on the delivery method for the project, it may be more difficult. Anytime you have a design build type of project, those are the most difficult to deal with requests for information because you receive plans at the time that the project is designed, which means, and a lot of times there's a lot of questions to be answered. So that delivery method, in that case, you usually have a lot of requests for information because a lot of things are missing and a lot of things don't make sense. And so address the request as soon as you think it's necessary or as soon as you are asked information, make sure you answer. In any of the other integrated delivery methods, meaning integrated labor delivery, a lot of times the contractors themselves are directly involved, and so they have more insight on the project, so you have fewer requests for information. And then last but not least, use some kind of document tracking, so you can know when you received it. It's all documented. Everybody has a copy of when everybody received everything and when everything was sent. And last but not least, there's a sample request for information in this presentation, and all of the video discussions go hand in hand with all of the live classes. So this is an addition to the live class for you to review. So review the sample request for information. The first part of any of the request for information is record keeping. Record keeping information for internal needs and uses. And so it's always an automated number. Make sure you know what company you're specifically sending it to, the dates that you send it, and the name of the project and number of the project. And the rest of the document, is a detail about the information that you request. So again, this video discussion presentation goes with the live class that you should have attended. And if you have any additional questions, please make sure you sign up for online office hours on our homepage. Again, this is Stacy Johnson, owner and operator of SF Johnson Consulting and Construction Services, and I will see you in the next class.